Monetary policy statement of the current financial year 2022-23. Against this backdrop, the Monetary Policy Committee, that is MPC, met on 6th, 7th and 8th April, and based on an assessment of the macroeconomic situation and the outlook, voted unanimously to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 4%. The MPC also decided unanimously to remain accommodative while focusing on withdrawal of accommodation to ensure that inflation remains within the target going forward while supporting growth. The marginal standing facility, that is MSF rate and bank rate, remain unchanged at 4.25%. Further, it has been decided by the Reserve Bank to restore the width of the liquidity adjustment facilities, that is the LAF, LAF, that is the LAF corridor, to 50 basis points, 50 to 50 basis points, the position that prevailed before the pandemic. The floor of the corridor will now be provided by the newly instituted Standing Deposit Facility, SDF, which will be placed 25 basis points below the repo rate, that is at 3.75%. I shall explain the details in this regard in the later part of my statement. The MPC decided to retain the repo rate at 4%. It also decided to remain accommodative while focusing on withdrawal of accommodation to ensure that inflation remains within the target going forward while supporting growth. I would now like to provide our assessment of growth and inflation. And consideration, real GDP growth for the year 2022-23, that is the current financial year 22-23, is now projected at 7.2%. I repeat, 7.2%, with Q1 22-23 at 16.2%, Q2 at 6.2%, Q3 at 4.1%, and Q4 at 4%. Assuming crude oil, that is Indian basket, at $100 per barrel during the year 2022-23 barrel. Inflation is now projected at 5.7%. I repeat, inflation is now projected at 5.7% in 2022-23, with Q1 at 6.3%, Q2 at 5%, Q3 at 5.4%, and Q4 at 5.1%. At both ends of the LAF corridor, you see both ends currently after we have introduced SDF at 3.75. Currently the LAF corridor, therefore the 50 basis points corridor, is 3.75% SDF at the lower end of the corridor and 4.25% at the upper end of the corridor through the instrumentality of the MSF. So thus at both ends of the LAF corridor there will be standing facilities, one to absorb the liquidity and the other one to inject liquidity. SDF absorbs liquidity, MSF would inject liquidity, and this will depend on the evolving financial market conditions. It can vary from day to day also. Accordingly, access, and further this is very important to note, that access to SDF and MSF will be at the discretion of the banks, because they are standing facilities. They will be at the discretion of the banks, unlike repo, reverse repo, OMO and CRR, which are available at the discretion of the Reserve Bank. So the standing facilities give the discretion to the banks. And the other tools I mentioned, the OMO, the reverse repo, or the CRR actions, if any, they are at the discretion of the Reserve Bank. Notably, and this is very important to note, that SDF is also a financial stability tool in addition to its role in liquidity management. So the introduction of SDF is for twin objective of doing proper and appropriate liquidity management in the current context, and also to further strengthen financial stability. So it has two broad objectives. The second point, I mentioned that there are, we are instituting several measures. The first one I have said. The second point is as follows. The SDF rate will be 25 basis points below the policy rate, and it will be applicable to overnight deposits at this stage. It would, however, retain the flexibility to absorb liquidity of longer tenors as and when the need arises with appropriate pricing. The MSF rate will continue to be 25 basis points above the repo rate. Thus, the width of the LAF corridor is restored to the pre-pandemic configuration of 50 basis points symmetrically around the policy repo rate, which will be at the center of the corridor. 3, the third announcement, the fixed rate reverse repo, that is FRRR, if I can put it that way. The fixed rate reverse repo FRRR rate is retained at 3.35%. It will remain as part of RBI's toolkit. However, its operation will be at the discretion of the Reserve Bank for purposes to be specified from time to time. The FRRR, that is fixed rate reverse repo, along with the SDF, will impart flexibility to RBI's liquidity management framework. 4, both MSF and SDF will be available from 17:30 hours to 23:59 hours on all days of the week throughout the year, from 5:30 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. on all days of the week throughout the year, irrespective of holidays or Saturdays or Sundays. 5, it has been decided to restore the opening time of financial markets regulated by the Reserve Bank to the pre-pandemic timing of 9 a.m., that is 9 in the morning, with effect from 18th April without any change in their closing time prevailing at present. During the pandemic, now these are some of the announcements I made. I will now proceed on. During the pandemic, the Reserve Bank offered liquidity combined with liquidity injected through various other time frame in a non-disruptive manner. Merchandise, we expect the current account deficit to remain at sustainable levels, which can be financed with normal capital flows. 3, it has been decided to enhance the present limit under held to maturity, that is HTM category, from 22% to 23% of the NDTL till 31st March 2023. It has also been decided to allow banks to include eligible securities, that is eligible SLR securities acquired between 1st April 2022 and 31st March 2023 under this enhanced limit. The HTM limits would be restored from 23% to 19.5% in a phased manner starting from the quarter ending June 30th, 2023. Next announcement relates to discussion paper on climate risk and sustainable finance. Climate change poses certain risks that could have implications for the safety and soundness of financial institutions as well as financial stability. The sky today may be overcast with clouds, but we will use all our energies, resolve and resources to let the sunlight illuminate India's future. Let me end by recalling what the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, had said long ago. It is faith that steers us through stormy seas, faith that moves mountains, and faith that jumps across the ocean. Thank you. Stay safe, stay well. Namaskar.